So many times I have said that one of the reasons why we moved down to Texas is because if you lose Texas, you lose the republic. And Texas has always had this certain attitude. You know, when Davy Crockett comes down and fights for the Mexicans, fights against tyranny, something that he's not involved. He just sees an oppressed people, and he's so sick and tired of what was happening in Washington. He comes down and he fights, and so do many brave people knowingly lose their life for the freedom of others. And when I found out that you were having a hard time in Texas teaching that, what was that, 10 years ago? I said to Pat, we have got to move down to Texas, because if we lose Texas, if Texas can't tell its own history, we lose Texas. Well, some good news, I guess, for Texans, because I guess now we can move. Tan Parker, who is a Texas state representative, has put together a bill, and the governor has just signed it to change things. The 1836 project is now part of law in Texas. Welcome to the program, Tan.
Well, Glenn, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be with you this morning.
Thank you. So tell me about the 1836 project. I love this.
Well, Glenn, look, it's so important that current generations of Texans, as well as future generations of Texans, always remember our history and understand it. That type of civic education is absolutely critical to the future of the state, just like it's critical to the future of the country. And so the 1836 project is about telling all of our history, the history that took place during the year 1836, the history of Texas before 1836, the history of Texas post 1836. All of it has to be told, the good and the bad.
Right.
All of it. We can't pick and choose and be selective about our history. And that's what we're trying to accomplish with the 1836 project, Glenn.
And, Tan, I have to tell you, the only way we can make a more perfect nation, meaning we'll never be perfect, but we have to try to be better. The only way we can continue down that road is to know the bad parts of our history. But if that's all you're taught, then you're missing the point. We have to have both sides of the story. And both sides of the story say that this is a group of people that have made mistakes but are getting better and have had some amazing heroics along the way.
Glenn, that's exactly right. Look, we are so much more enlightened as a society, as a people today than we were hundreds of years ago, of course. But the reality is that we're on a path to continuous improvement, always, as a state, as a nation. And so if we don't talk about what happened, again, the horrible things in our history, as well as the wonderful things in our history, if we don't talk about all the heroic and spectacular things that were done that gave us this land of boundless opportunity and prosperity, you know, where liberty and freedom are fundamental foundational points of all that we do. If we don't talk about that which binds us together as a people, then we lose everything. We lose our connectivity to one another as Texans, or our connectivity to one another as Americans. And that just can never be allowed to happen. And that's why I feel so blessed, Glenn, to have been able to lead this effort in the legislature in Texas and to create the 1836 project.
So the only thing I don't like about it is it's the 1836 project. I like it because it's a slap in the face to the New York Times, but that is a reimagining of history. This is not a reimagining of history. I mean, you want to do reimagining of history in 1619, put it in creative writing class or a philosophy class, or some sort of puppet show class. This is actual history. Now, you're being charged with, or this bill is being charged, that it is going to erase all of the history of Texas and slavery and the Confederacy, et cetera, et cetera.
Glenn, it's absolutely absurd. The liberal agenda in the country is going berserk. The New York Times, Newsweek, Time, they're all attacking the 1836 project, and myself as the author. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Why?
It's nuts.
Because they don't want us to tell all of our history. They don't want us to tell all of our history. They want to selectively pick and just talk about the slavery and nothing else. And it's just absolutely so wrong. And, this bill passed on a bipartisan basis, for heaven's sake, in the House. I had over 40 Democrats that also cared about our history and making certain that we preserve it. So this is the liberal elite at the New York Times and Newsweek and so forth and Time driving their narrative, and it doesn't fit with that. And we're going to do something in terms of really special when we educate all of our people, current generations as well as future generations. And people that are coming to Texas for the first time are going to get some of the educational content when they move to Texas that talks about not just the history, but how the history of our state informs the present in terms of our policy decisions, how we look through everything with the lens of limited government and maximizing freedom and liberty for our citizens.
Thank you for doing that. I just want to read section 451.003, duties. The 1836 project shall promote awareness among residents of this state of the following as they relate to the history of prosperity and democratic freedom in this state. A, Texas history, including the indigenous peoples of the state, the Spanish-American heritage of the state, Tejanos, the African-American heritage of this state, the Texas War for Independence, Juneteenth, which is a fantastic story. And it's really, and Texas was on the wrong side at the time, but Juneteenth is a celebration that I honestly only see in Texas. They're trying to make it a national thing, but it is something that Texans did to remember the freedom of the African American and all slaves. The annexation of Texas by the United States, the Christian heritage of this state, the state's heritage of keeping and bearing firearms in defense of life and liberty and for the use in hunting, the founding documents of the state, the founders of the state, state civics, the role of the state in passing and reauthorizing the Federal Voting Rights Act of 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson signing of the act, President George W. Bush 25-year extension of the act, Congresswoman Barbara Jordan's successful efforts to broaden the act to include Spanish-speaking communities, to advise the governor on core principles of the founding of the state, blah, 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 blah. This is this kind of stuff. And I say this because I know it includes the bad things as well, but it is balanced and shows how much good has happened because we corrected those flaws. I commend you. I think this is fantastic.
Well, Glenn, thank you so much. And I'm so grateful to my colleagues for supporting me in the legislature and the governor for signing it into law this week. And you just nailed it. When you read the text of the bill, this is my message to the New York Times and everyone else that's attacking us right now, is read the bill, for heaven's sake. It doesn't fit their narrative, Glenn. That's the bottom line. It doesn't fit the liberal narrative, and that's why they need to read the bill. But it will be such an important thing to protect Texas going forward. Think about the fact that everybody that will now be coming to Texas when they get here and they get a new driver's license issued, coming from wherever on the globe, they will now get Texas history. And not just the history of Texas before 1836, 1836 itself, and post 1836, but they're going to get how all of those policies, all the history informs the present in terms of the way that we operate our government here in Texas. So it's a holistic view so that everyone understands the blessings of Texas and how special it is. I mean, we are truly a spectacular state. We are a spectacular country. We are always on a path to continuous improvement. But if we don't tell that story and protect it for future generations, then we will lose the state. We will lose the nation.
And there is a reason why people are moving to Texas right now, and it is because of those values and time-tested virtues that have been deeply ingrained, and in many cases, because of the mistakes of the past Texans. And we are, in the last recession, Texas created over 50% of all jobs. When Obama was in office and he said, these are the jobs I created. No, he didn't. Over 50% of those were created by the state of Texas alone. There's a reason for that, and people should know it.